It's been on a bit of a goal drought now.
Just give me 2 seconds to see if it's coming up on Facebook. It's a nightmare now because you've got to be a Premier account holder on X to be able to stream to X. It's just nightmares. So I haven't got anybody else to post it out for me, so I have to do it myself. So just just bear with me. Got no backroom staff here. I knew there was another Southern League group somewhere, but I just couldn't find it. Found it now. He's still having issues with his camera. Look, he's even got his mute on now as well.
There he is.
There he is.
Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yeah.
Lovely.
We can see with Technicolor now, Tony, as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. How are you? All right.
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Just in time. So welcome to the Repost Non-League show. And we, of course, we're here again this week for the next hour. And of course, really lucky to say that joining us this week is Sam from Bedford Town. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you very much. Hello, David. How are you?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. And in Technicolor now, and because we've got him on screen now, of course, Tony as well, assistant manager as well down at Bedford Town. So welcome, Tony.
Good evening. How you doing?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. And then, of course, from Winchester City, we've got Ryan and we've got Nathan. Welcome, guys.
Evening, David. Thanks for having us. Evening.
So, I suppose one of the things that I suppose in the last week, I mean, it's always our sort of guess this when we go in first start the show. Anything non-league wise that sort of took your eye this week since last Monday?
I'll go with the signing of Gary Hooper for Kettering.
Well, we was just having that conversation before you came on, Tony, about about how all of a sudden it's sort of superstar heaven in the Summer League, isn't it, at the moment?
There's a few good signings. There's some big names.
And we've got Mr. Edwards coming in there as well, and of course Niall Ranger in there as well. I mean, they've got some firepower there.
That's a hell of a front three, isn't it? It really is.
Fancy that? Would you have that to your club, Tony? Would you?
I think we take 2 out of the 3. No one's getting ahead of Mr. Lovejoy at the minute.
And of course, you've also what about Ryan and Nathan? Anything you've seen as well, other than the goal-scoring goalkeeper?
I was going to say a lot of my Twitter feed lately has been about our own goalkeeper scoring penalties. I can't get away from it at the minute.
So I suppose if we could ask that question first, I mean, Nathan might know, Ryan, you may know as well. I mean, How did that sort of come about? Was that sort of like some kind of penalty competition? He came out best, and also as well as sort of fans and sort of press as well of the club. Are you waiting for that 1 minute when he misses and the keeper picks it up and smacks it up the other end, and there's a striker standing on the halfway line?
So I think there's always that risk of if that ever does happen. But over the last 2 years, I think we've missed about 11 penalties in the last 2 seasons with about 8 different penalty takers. So I think it got to a point where I think he was the only one that probably hadn't had taken one. Um, he's a very confident goalkeeper, backs himself. He thinks he's a bit of a player out pitch as well. Um, so yes, he was full of confidence. He's been badgering the gaffer to take the penalties for the last ever since he's come to the club, about a year ago, and he's finally got his wish to take one. He's taken two, scored two. He no penalty is a bad penalty if it goes in, but I think he would admit himself he got very lucky with the first one.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
But like I say, there probably will become a time where he does miss one. I'm hoping it will be a long way away, but there is always that risk of obviously with the goalkeeper taking one that if he does save it, if he's going to miss, he does have to miss the target, so they can't break on us, I suppose.
What about you guys? I mean, Sam, would you like to see your keeper taking penalties?
No. No, I think we've got I think we've got plenty of people that would put their hand up before we see Nave taking one. But I'm sure he'd give himself a go. He'd back himself.
I mean, it's just an incredible feat to see something say happening. I mean, I looked at it as say when when Nathan sent it through to me for the goal show, and I'm looking at it thinking, that's the keeper, isn't it? Surely not. Do you know what I mean? And then so he was slightly as you say, Ryan, he got a bit lucky with the first one, and then the second one he sort of put away quite nicely.
Yeah, and God forbid it's been against two of his old ex teams as well. His first two goals have come against, so he's really enjoyed that. But like he's a very much a maverick sort of goalkeeper. He isn't your bog standard shot stopper, come and deal with crosses. He wants to step into midfield at some points. I know he gives people heart attacks when he steps into midfield, and he'll take an attacker on, and he won't then just shell it up the pitch. He'll want to find a pass. But if we took that part away from him as a goalkeeper, I think we'd take a lot of the goalkeeper away from him.
Mm. So if start with the Winchester guys, we'll just start with the Bedford guys first, and have a chat about Bedford Town. But I mean, how when you went into this season this year, and I know sort of Sam sort of said to us sort of off air earlier on, what was the goal, Tony? Sort of going into this season, because we've known it. I know as Sam said, only sort of took over last season, but that sort of scenario where it was up then back again, that sort of scenario. Do you feel that it was a bit sort of unnerving going back up there again?
I think we deserved to go up last season. We probably was one of the best sides in the league, and obviously got via the playoffs, done extremely well. But to be top of the league for 2 weeks probably hasn't done us any favours at the minute, because people want to beat us. And our drill this season is obviously to consolidate and stay in the division. So being fourth in the league right now is fantastic. We're probably punching above our weight massively, but you take it. We was top of the league for 3 games, and when Banbury beat us, we was a big scalp. You take that all day long. So as long as we're out of that bottom four, I think we'll be happy.
And you've got some big sides, in there. I mean, likes of Kettering and AFC Telford. In Banbury. There's some big old names in that league as well.
There's some big names. You're right that have been at step one, step two. Howes Owen that we went up to this season, massive underdogs, and already beat them 4-1. I think we've got Telford coming up. There's some big games. And as I say, I think for myself, Lee and Sam, it is to consolidate the team this season. And if we can finish mid-table, playoff will be absolutely fantastic. But we're looking to stay out of the bottom 5. That would be a realistic goal for us.
So can I take you back to sort of the end of last season? I mean, you actually, I mean, the Sam can come in on this as well. I mean, what was that like last season? It was a real sort of like, should we say, almost sort of like a heavyweight boxing match of 12 rounds, wasn't it? With you and sort of Biggleswade, get in there and backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. It went completely down to the last game of the season. What was going through your minds on that last game of the season?
Um, to be honest, we had a great start, and I think we was at one stage about 8 or 9 points clear, and then we had a massive wobble come about March where we dropped to fifth in the table. We brought a few new players in, which we needed to steady the ship and finishing. I think we finished third or fourth, and then going up via the playoffs. We deserved it right at the end, but we did have a wobble. And Biggleswade probably over the 9 month season were the best team week in week out. But I think us going up via the playoffs um, was deservedly so. But we've made a few changes as we would do going into this season. We've got a few more experienced boys, but it was very nervy because I think a lot of people put a few quid on us, a fiver to go up, and we did eventually.
Mm. I mean, I do the managers show. I don't know if you've seen any of it, but we do the managers show on a Sunday night, and all the way through last season, both Mark at Wellingarden City and Paul Halsey at Ware were both sort of stating, well, the two clubs, if you finish above either Biggleswade Town or finish above Bedford Town, you're probably going to win the league. So they were sort of calling it from quite early doors. But I mean, the playoff final, I mean, that was against my hometown team, wasn't it?
It was, I think so. Go on, Sam, come in.
Yeah,
Talk
Wolf Abbey,
about.
wasn't it? Wolf Abbey.
Yeah. I mean, what was it?
Yeah.
What was actually, what was the feelings going into that? What was the, that sort of build up to going into that game? Because, that probably would have been one of the biggest games for the club for some time, under that sort of scenario.
Yeah, I mean, look, we were confident. We'd gone on a run of 6 wins in a row before that to end the season. So we were going into it with confidence, and we obviously done our homework on the team. We'd actually lost to them quite recently at home 1-0 to a last minute goal in the league, and we drew at their place earlier in the season. So we knew it was going to be a tough game, but when it's a one-off game, I always say about what we can do in terms of a coaching staff in making sure the team's ready for it, and we went into it believing that we could win it. We had the right players available at the time. We made some tough decisions on the day to leave certain players out, but ultimately we got over the line. So that's all that really matters.
Mm. And I mean, looking at this season, as well. I mean, you got a bit of a rest now, innit? I mean, have you got any games put in? Because I see the next game, according to the football web pages, 2nd of November away to Bromsgrove Sporting.
Yeah. So we obviously, because we went out of the trophy in the FA Cup quite early, we had a game pulled forward. I think it was a Sudbury game, Tony, if I'm right.
Correct, yeah.
Which means that we've got a week extra to prepare for the next game, which is good. After a couple of losses, it gives us time to consolidate and get on the training ground, work on a few things, maybe getting a few players if that's what's necessary, and be ready for the next game. Because like Tony's already said, every game's a difficult game for us at this point. The target on our back is still there because we're still up there at the minute, and we've got points on the board, which is good. But we have to keep going. We have to keep working hard. We have to change a few things if necessary, and come the Bromsgrove game, we're sure we'll be ready.
Will it be one of those things, guys, though, that you will, look to play friendly, or are you just going to train?
We have got a friendly penciled in for this Saturday. But yeah, again, it depends on other teams, officials, etc. But we also have got a Bed Senior Cup on next Tuesday away at Biggleswade United. So we've got a fixture in there to get a few players some minutes.
And games coming up though. I mean, you've got you say the St Ives at home after that, and then probably I would have thought most teams in your league will be looking forward to going to Telford.
Of course, it's a great facility, and they were hot favourites start of the season. I think they had a bad start. I don't think they got a point for the first 2 or 3 games, but they're coming good now. So they get well supported. As I say, it's a great stadium. They'll have some players in there, and they're the games that for us which are excitable. They're where you want to play, aren't they?
And they must have done quite well because it must have dried out a little bit.
I think so. I think the lake's gone now, isn't it? They played this weekend.
Well, it looks like we just lost Nathan. He seems to have just sort of dropped off. Hopefully, he'll be back in a bit. But I mean, is there fixtures there? That you when you first got into the league this year and you looked, was there ones you was really sort of looking forward to?
I'll go if you don't mind, Sam. I suppose the Kettering game. Um, they're a big non-league side. You look at, hopefully we should get there should be a big crowd for that one. It's sort of localish derby, so that one's a good one. Hitchin yet again, localish derbies. Both teams will want to win that one, and as you just said, the bigger teams, the Telfords, the Howes Owens, the favourites. We go in there as underdogs, and they're big games for Bedford Town and our players. So you want to do as best as you can.
Hmm. I mean, Sam, I mean, tell us a little bit about the club. I mean, for people that are sort of tuning in and don't know too much about, Bedford Town. I mean, tell us a little bit, about the club in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's a club with rich history. Tony will be able to tell you a little bit more. He's played for them as well as obviously being part of the staff. But yeah, look, it's a club that is ambitious. It wants to go as high as it can get. They've obviously invested heavily into the pitch and the surrounding area, facilities wise for this season, which is a good marker of what they're trying to achieve. As we spoke about on air, off air, sorry, with Ryan, that hopefully provides a financial stability long term and therefore the club can continue to progress. Our job is to stay up this season because of that, so that we can then push on. But as a club, look, there's so many great people that we're working with, and they're doing a great job off the pitch. And it's our job then to go and get the results on it to replicate that.
I mean, we did have a laugh at a joke because we had Biggleswade on FC on the other week, and of course, they were over the moon and they got York City and all the rest of it. And I turned around and said, "Well, probably you guys be quite pleased that they got York City as well, were?"
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously, being that it's at our ground, it's good exposure for us and them. But like, look, obviously to them, well done as well, because it's no mean feat even coming up against a team of that, and I think they did really well with the result that they got.
What other teams have you got in the actual club, Tony? I mean, have you got sort of like under 23s, reserves, under 18s, kids teams? I mean, what is the makeup of the club?
We've got a really good kids section. When we took over, more or less 2 seasons ago now, I think there was an under 23s, but unfortunately that evaporated. So we've got a good under 18s where we've probably got 4 or 5 of the lads that train with us sporadically. But the kids section, especially now that the Astra or the 5G, the 3G's down, whatever you want to call it, AstroTurf in this day and age, the kids have been training on it. So we've seen a selection of the kids teams. So the youth structure is fantastic. And as I say, there's a few under 18s. It's a big jump, isn't it? Under 18s to step 3 football is a real big jump, but a few of the boys are trained well with us, and hopefully at some point we can get 1 or 2 of them some minutes at step 3 this season.
I mean, I suppose a little cheeky question, but I mean, what is there any sort of like a situation with it that for the club now? Of course, you've got sort of noisy neighbours now, not too far away from you. So, I mean, is it, is that a little bit of a concern?
I wouldn't say it's a concern. I think within the football club, within the dressing rooms, there's a lot of respect for both teams. Obviously, our players and management staff, we know both dressing rooms. So on that side of it, I don't think there is. But obviously, like anything, we're 1 division above them at the present moment. They're going well. I think they will achieve great success. But I think Bedford Town, we get really good support. So both teams are looking for different successes right now. They've got a 10-year plan, haven't they, or a 15-year plan to get in the Premiership. I don't think our plan is to get in the Premiership. It's to get into step 2, step 1. But yeah, I think both. It's brilliant for the town.
And it's one of those things that if worst case scenario, you stayed where you were and their best case scenario come up, I mean, that's going to be some derby, isn't it?
That'd be a hell of a derby. It would be a great derby. And as I say, there's lots of players that have played for both teams. Especially we've had some players that were with us that have joined them and are doing really, really well. So yeah, I think they'll do well in their league this season, and they won't be far away from getting promotion.
I mean, there's the beginning of the season. I mean, when you're sitting down and you've said like, you want to keep away from that sort of bottom sort of like relegation zone. But I mean, is it a case of you feel sort of like behind closed doors as such you've exceeded where you would think you would possibly be at this time of the season?
Yeah, Yeah, look, I'll jump in. Look. I said earlier we've got the points on the board. It's fantastic to have done so well at the start of the season, but with the expectation that was put on us, with everything that's going on at the club, we didn't have a home pitch to play on for the first couple of months. You know, we didn't play our first game at home until end of September. So ultimately, to get those points on the board, we probably did exceed everyone's expectation. So it's good to be in that position. We'll try and hang on to it for as long as we can, and we'll keep working on that. I don't know what you think, Tony. I think you'd agree.
100%, 100%. If I think we've got 4 or 5 wins on the bounce already. We'd take that all day long. And as I say, to top the league, only for for about 7 to 10 days. It was great, but we are a bit of a scalp at that stage. Everybody wants to beat you. As long as we can stay, I think we've got expectations in the dressing room and what we want to do. But obviously, budget wise and where we are at the moment, to stay in the league is first and foremost.
I suppose one question, and I'll ask both of you, and please, if you don't want to answer this for the reasons, you don't have to answer this question at all. You can just say you don't want to answer, but it's no issues whatsoever. I mean, of course, you've had some really bad news, club-wise, I suppose, over the last few weeks. How proud are you of Leon to be able to go through what he's gone through and do what he did the other week with a hat-trick? I mean, that is something else, isn't it?
Well, if Sam, if you don't mind me saying this one, Leon is a personal friend of mine off the field as well. So Leon and myself go back to Leon's teens, and we are good friends on and off the field. He's, in my opinion, he's a fantastic non-league player, and what he's done over the last month has been far from incredible. He's had some news that you can't even imagine. And to put it aside, when he's put the shirt on and played, he's been fantastic. The second half hat trick the other day was obviously the ultimate icing on the cake for him. But the boy is, in my opinion, he's a fantastic talent, and he's had some bad press over the years. He could play higher, he could do this, but the talent he's showing at the minute is phenomenal. So, yeah, I take my hat off to the boy. He's been excellent.
And it's one of those things where I could have almost put at least 2 out of the 3 goals in the goal of the week, like last week, because they were pretty special.
The lob, obviously, he tries it sometimes, and it comes off, and sometimes it doesn't. But when it comes off, it's not a fluke. A few people had seen it on the VO and seen it, and said, "Did he mean it? Did he mean it?" And 100%, he means it. When he sees a goalkeeper 6 yards off the line, he means it. And he's an excellent talent to be playing at this level. We've got a great asset on our hands.
Well, I could officially announce it was goal of the week last week because I've seen results. It was actually the closest one we've ever had. It was 50-50, 50%, 50%. So I don't know how, but when you go into X and it tells you who's won, so he doesn't actually tell you who voted for who, but it's actually lit up on Leon's name. So Leon beat Bradley down at Welling Garden City. Mark wasn't best pleased with the back because he liked his goal. So he was trying to get him to win it. But he won that during the week. So that's great.
No, fair play to him. Fair play. And all 3 goals were good from our point of view, but that little lob was excellent.
Ryan, if we can come to you just for a minute, and Nathan must be having trouble coming back.
Yeah,
on.
I think he's just messing with his Wi-Fi's just dropped off.
But I mean, with Winchester as well. I mean, we're saying with the guys that you look at the personnel that's in their league in the Central League, and you look at the Southern League, Premier Southern. It's the who's who in it of non-league football almost in there.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a hard league this year. You look at, I think pretty much all the teams that come down from the Conference South come across to our league. The likes of Taunton, Gloucester, Havant and Waterlooville, they've all come into our league. And then also you've got clubs such as your Tottens, your Wharton Hershams, your Merthers. There's so many big football clubs with great histories at a non-league level that are in that league. So I think any point that you get in this league, you've got to work so hard for. Nothing's given to you. I think you can turn up. There's no team can turn up on a day and just roll any team over. the top team can be the bottom team and vice versa. It's such a hard league to predict. There's so much quality in there. You've spoken about the guys at Caring that have got the pedigree of the Premier League. In our league, we're looking at the people at Tottenham. They've just signed, not long signed Charlie Austin. Um, you've got other football league, ex-football league players floating about. You've got people like Scott Rendell over at Tottenham also that are scoring goals. And I think more and more now you're finding that football league players are coming down into the non-league level because the level is getting higher and higher, and it's becoming more and more adverse for them sort of players.
Well, we've got to talk about the win at the weekend. I mean, that was a great win against Bolton and Hersham.
Yeah, really good. We've we've been secluded with lots of injuries lately. I think we've struggled to fill a bench the last two games. I think out of the five subs, I think only two or three of them have been able to actually come on and impact the game because we've struggled with injuries. I think we've had about five long-term injuries. I think the manager's working around the clock to try and get reinforcements in. But I'm sure, like the guys know, it's so hard to try and get players to come in. There's so much money about elsewhere. So we're trying to get reinforcements in. But Saturday the boys worked so hard. It was so good to see them putting a performance like that. We're gone behind 1-0. And Warren Hersham are a very good team. They probably play one of the best brands of football in our league. They're very much from the Pep school of football. They won't go long. They try and pass out from the back. Everything's got to go through each thirds. So to come behind and win that game so late on was testament to the lads. They've done so well and couldn't be happy for the boys.
And of course, it don't get much easier, does it? Because you've got Gloucester City next.
No, it doesn't. No, yes, we got Gloucester Tuesday night, who are they're top of the league at the minute by a couple of points, just above Tottenham and Merthyr. So I'm sure they'll come into our game full of confidence. But like we'll be bouncing into this game full of confidence. I think anyone will look in and be writing us off straight away. So we can really go into that game as a free hit. No pressure on us to go and win that game. I think anyone outside of our changing room, our football club, will be expecting Gloucester to come away with that convincing winners. But we're at our best when we've got our backs to the wall. When people do write us off, we're our best then. Not saying we're going to come out from anything from Tuesday. It's going to be a hard game, but football's not one on paper, is it? That's why we love it so much.
And then you've got three games then: Tavistock away, Hanwell Town away, and Frome Town away.
Yeah, so we go back down to Tavistock. This will be the second journey down there. We end up drawing them in the FA Cup as well. So we know all about them. That'll be a difficult game, a difficult journey down there again.
How far is that from you?
It's a good 3.5 hours, 4 hours on a coach. Journey wise, I think this will be our fourth trip down to Devon already this season, and we're only in October. So we'll go down there, a little bit of a respite from the league, obviously in the FA Trophy, hopefully to recuperate some money for the football club. And then we got two massive games against Hanwell and Frome, which will, like I've said, there's no easy games in this league. You've got to work so hard to get anything from it. But hopefully we can build on Saturday's result, Saturday's performance, and take it into Tuesday. And then obviously we've got the respite from the league with the FA Cup, so the pressure's off a little bit, and then be bouncing them two games.
And then, of course, the reason I'm sort of going down your fix is because of the next game that you've got, because it's a fantastic name for a football club. Is it Eversley in California?
Yes, so that's in the Southampton, not Southampton, the Hampshire Senior Cup. So yeah, that'll be an interesting game. I think they're step 6 or 5. So yeah, be a good game. Be a good game for other lads to come in and play, show what they can do. We've had a couple of under 23s lads that have been involved in match day squads the last couple of weeks, so potentially they could even get minutes in them sort of games. They're the opportunities that they can go and showcase what they've got to the management team, to the Dave, the gaffer. But that's a competition that we want to do well in. So we won't be taking it lightly. We will want to go there, play them and win. And realistically, there's probably the only cup competition we can try and win. And very rarely in senior football can you go and win trophies.
Do you know what, Ryan? I like you already even more with what you just said there, because I say that every single week on this show. And as we've got an assistant manager on the show, I'll ask this question to Tony as well. Why is it that 90%, 99% of clubs at step 3 and step 4 do not take the county cup seriously, when exactly what Ryan's just said, realistically, Bedford or Winchester are not going to win the FA Cup, probably not going to win the FA Trophy, but probably stand a good chance of winning their county cup, but then they always go with the kids.
Well, you say that. Lee, myself, and Sam were managers at Leighton Town in the county cup, and we beat Bedford in the final, albeit on penalties. And Bedford should have beaten us on that night, but lo and behold, maybe 4 to 6 weeks later, we then took over at Bedford. So county cups have been good for us over the years. We picked up a couple of them. That was played at Kenilworth Road at the time, was a Premiership ground. There was a good crowd. So I'm with you. We take them really seriously. We put our strongest side possible. Obviously, if you've got a first team player that needs a rest, of course. But no, we always put our best side possible out for those games.
And I mean, with those county cup, where did you, I think was it right in saying the Hampshire one was it down at the Dell or somewhere like that last year?
Yeah, so they normally play the Hampshire Senior Cup will normally be at Southampton down at St Mary's. So like I said,
showing me age, and I sorry.
Yeah. If you get to the finals of these cups, they are normally held at prestigious venues and stadiums, which for a lot of the lads will be the first time or the only chance they get to play at a ground like that. So it's a real good opportunity to go and play in these stadiums. And any sort of final, there's always people coming to watch. It's always a great showcase for any of the young lads to go and show what they can do. And for a pro team, a step 1, a step 2 team to be coming and having a look at the players that are on show, because especially in this day and age, people are trying to pick up young talent that they don't have to pay lots of money for, and can they try and find that golden nugget? So there's always people coming to these games to try and look at.
I mean, with those finals though, I mean, with the finals in sort of these county cups, do you expect it to be played at a Premier League, or should we say a league ground?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know where I'm going with this, Tony? Because I know there's one county FA, we won't say which one it is. Well, it could do, I suppose. It ain't going to make much difference. But they seem to, I know Cheshunt had, it is a clue for you. Cheshunt had a situation where they got to a final, and I think it was played like on a normal step 4, step 3, step 4 ground. And they didn't actually get to play at, a big ground. And I think the following season, it was exactly the same again. They ended up having to play at the step 3, step 4, ground rather than actually getting there. And again, I suppose the question would be: does that county take it seriously, like the clubs may not? I'm not saying all of them do, and you're not trying to say. So, like, are they taking their own cup competition seriously by putting it at a step 3, step 4 side, where maybe if it would have been I don't know, an under-18 Premier League side that they might have in their county, or a division, championship side, would it have been played still at a step 3, step 4 stadium?
I think you're right. I think the carrot is there from both sides, isn't it? If the final is a pro ground, it does. It adds that bit of prestigious to the tie. I think in county cups, there's maximum of 3 or 4 rounds. You win 2 games, and you're in the semi-finals. And obviously, if it's played at Luton, MK Dons, or St Mary's is fantastic. That's a Premiership ground. The players want to play there. All these players want to play at the best stadiums possible in front of the biggest crowd. So, and us guys as management team, we want our players to go and play there. So I think by putting it a top ground, it does add a little bit to it.
I mean, Ryan, tell us a little bit more about Winchester City. That we might not know.
So it's a very family orientated football club. This is the highest level of football the club has ever played at. We've been at step three now for this will be our third season up there. We've come up 3 years ago through the playoffs out of the South and West. One beating Bristol Manor Farm in the playoffs. Problem definitely punched above our weight in that season. There was a lot of big teams that probably underachieved in that season. We were never talked about as being one of the clubs to be up and around the playoff positions. We went on a really good run, got ourselves into the playoff position. Had a real tough game in the semis, and then we had a real good day out at our own place for the final, which we beat Bristol Manor Farm 4-1. Great day. And then we've just gone on every season. We've finished higher and higher and higher each season. The manager's done a really good job at the football club. He's been there now, I think eight seasons. Every season we've finished higher and higher. Each season we've progressed. At the minute we're definitely fighting above our weight again in the Southern Prem. I know people don't like to talk about budgets too much, but I think if you looked at our budget compared to the rest of the league, we would 100% be in the bottom 2 or 3 for budget wise. So what we have to do is we have to go and fish in different pools to the other clubs. We have to go and look at step 4, step 5, step 6 players to bring into our football club. Can we develop them? Can we maximize their ability? Because if we go after the players that other people in our league are going to be going for, we'd stand no chance. So what we are is we're a football club that wants to. We pull on it. We pull on the maximum amount of ability every single person has. There's no egos or bad eggs at the football club. The football club is very much built on hard work, desire, all the stuff that comes before any sort of ability. And that's led from the very top in the boardroom, right through to the first team manager, right through all the players. And now we've got this brilliant facility that we've just been given back. So we didn't have a ground for the first 2 months of the season. We're playing at the Hampshire FA quarters. So we was playing there for the first couple of months of the season. We haven't got off to the best of start. We've been blighted by injuries. But hopefully, like we spoke about Saturday's result, hopefully that'll be a big turning point now for us moving forward.
Mm. I mean, what other teams have you got in the club? You got ladies teams or under 23s, etc., kids?
Yeah, so we've got I think we've got about 500 kids, 500 kids associated with the club, with starting from under 6s, and that goes right all the way through under 20, under 18s, under 23s, first team, and then we've got a women's team associated with the football club as well. Which then now we've got that central hub of our 4G pitch. A lot of the teams can now be based from the main grounds. A lot of the teams are training there. A lot of the teams are playing there on the weekends. So I think it's a really exciting time now moving forward for Winchester. We've got that sustainability now where we can become self-efficient with the 4G pitch, where we can start hiring out and bringing an income through the pitch, which then hopefully that will give us a long-term future.
I suppose a silly question for both of you, but both of the clubs really. I suppose that now you've got these, you've got the new pitch laid. It's probably end up being a silly question possibly, but have you had to change your playing style from playing on grass to playing on 3G? Sam's smiling.
It's a difficult one because you automatically would expect, well, it's a better surface, it's more sustainable. You can obviously the weather doesn't affect it as much, so you should be able to play more football. But I think that all just comes down to player profiles, right? If you've got a bunch of 6 foot plus players, you're not necessarily going to play football to feet, are you? So I think it is always going to be profiles of the players that you've got. Obviously, Each manager has their own playing style as well. So there's so many different factors that go into it. I'm sure when fans and people from the outside looking, they think, well, you've got a 4G pitch now, you should be able to play Manchester City football, but it's not as simple as that.
Right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think not just fans. I think sometimes players can turn up to a 3G pitch. They see a nice, lovely surface, and they try and play out from the back, and they try and get off their goalie, which probably on a grass pitch, boggy, muddy, wet. On another day, they wouldn't even look to get off the goalkeeper to try and play, but because they have a nice 3G pitch, they try and do things that they probably wouldn't do in other circumstances. So it's bit of cat and mouse really, where you want to play, but you also want to play the football that you want to play. There's no point going off the cuff if there's stuff that you haven't worked on. It can put you into a bit of a false sense of security with the nice pitch and doing things that you probably wouldn't do.
Tell us because he dropped off. Tell us a little bit about Nathan and the job that he does for the club.
So Nathan's he come in about 18 months ago, I think now. So he's the head of media for the club, and he's been an absolute revelation. He's brought on the whole world has changed now. It's all about social media and for your followers and the content that you can bring fans. And he's we'd never had that at Winchester before Nathan come in. And since he's come in, he's taken that on. He's the crowds have started to get bigger, not necessarily through our social media, but through the football we're playing. But the social media now is such a big interaction with fans and pulling people together, the community, people not knowing about Winchester, but now they start seeing stuff on a TikTok account, on an Instagram account, on X. So I think that drives a different audience to try and bring everyone to the football club. And I think he's been brilliant. He's got a team of about 4 or 5 other media guys who work tirelessly. They're always trying to find different ways to bring different content to social media. And I think it's a good thing. I think people like the interactions. They like the social media part of it. I know the players love it. All these GIFs and emojis they do after they score and different things. But yeah, I think he's I can't speak highly enough of him and his team. He's been really good, and it's part of a football club probably that goes unnoticed. And they're the sort of the unsung heroes of the football club because they're not front and center. People don't really hear about them or see about them. But like I said, I can't speak highly enough of him and his team.
One of the reasons I asked that question as well is because doing the goal show for the Southern League and watching some of the footage and some of the stuff that gets sent to me, etc., there's a couple of excluded, right? So apologies this, but but I've got real sort of 3 favourites that come in every time. Lowestoft Town, because when they send their stuff in, you got the guy there doing all the stuff beforehand and chatting to the crowd. It sounds so. Wimborne Town as well. They've got a professional guy that comes in and does their footage, which is it's just incredible. Some of the stuff he produces on that. But the other one that I've always loved. Don't see much of it because I don't get much of it sent to me because it's not actually, I'm assuming, official with Bedford Town. But his Eagle Vision, because his stuff is absolutely sensational. Does that link up with the club, or does he do that off his own back, or is that something that's now becoming a bit more official with the club?
I think Eagle Vision is the young lad who goes and watches quite a lot of non-league games, but he main focus is Bedford Town. And it is fantastic. I've seen some real good clips of goals that you want to see and goals that you don't want to see. But he's done some good clips, and we also have our own personal one, Simon Gill, who is absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if you've seen his work. It actually is his birthday today. I think he's 58. Is young Simon. So happy birthday! But some the work that they do is tremendous, and also the players absolutely love, as the Winchester guy was saying, the remit that they get on Instagram. They're focus that they get is second to none, and it's good for management teams as well to see what other teams do. We get a bit on them.
I think he's the older gentleman's one, because I see him like at half time talking to the rest of the ones that are all around him, and he films it from the ground. And it's just, I mean, literally, I've just literally tried to ping him up on YouTube now, and it's playing down here in front of me. Bedford against Redditch United from in September. But so it's just his footage and just the way he does it all by actually talking to people. It's almost like he's a complete fan just sitting there, where he gets his camera out and does the filming.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I speak to him a lot after the games and stuff. I think he comes and enjoys the game just as much as anybody else, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, that interaction makes it a more personal experience. We obviously VO some of the games as well, so like we incorporate some of that footage with it. But he gets that pitch side experience with it. I think some of the boys like it as well. I know Leon posts a lot of his goals up, and it's nice to see that commentary alongside of it. And yeah, again, like, everyone appreciates all the work they do. And again, if you're a fan whilst you're doing it, it just adds to that experience, like I've said.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I say when all this sort of stuff comes through, I mean, one of the ones I always like, especially from like last year, was all like Merthyr Town, Hendon, and there's a couple more this year as well, where because they save me so much time, because they actually put their goal scores on it for me, so I haven't got to sit there and travel through the whole footage and try to find out. Yeah, because sometimes what you'll get when people send the footage through to you, you'll get like a file name rather than, like, say for instance, Winchester City goal 1, so goal 2, and so you've got to sit there and work it out. Especially if it's a night game, you've got to try and work out who scored first, who scored second. Go onto the Summer League website, because they don't use football web pages, which is really annoying. But you go onto the Summer League site, and you've got to try and work out who's scoring at what end and all the rest of it. I think I've only ever had one issue, and it was a Bracknell Town game, and I had to phone their guy at Bracknell Town and say, look, I can't work this out for love nor money. I've been at it about half an hour, and I can't work out what goes what. So I had him actually on the phone on a video call while I was watching it on the screen and actually working it out. But for players and coaches and that, this sort of new sort of era of social media and YouTube, etc., does that now get to a stage where you've almost got to sort of speak to the players and say, look, if you're going to go out there and have an interview with whoever, just be careful what you say? I mean, is it coming to that sort of media training stuff now? I know it sounds a bit silly at our level, but because it's getting more and more and more footage of the football at steps 3 and 4, do you feel that that's something that might have to be looked into?
I think where it's such a hot topic, and you've got all the YouTube channels, all the bloggers that come in to do different non-league things, there's very much an eye on the media side of the football. So I think the lads are very much aware of anything they do say probably will end up on X or YouTube or Facebook account. So I think they're a lot. Don't get me wrong, there are some thick footballers that say a lot of things that they don't really think about. But I think in the main, I'd say a lot of them are aware that what they say they could end up turning into a meme in 10 minutes later on X. I think they are quite aware of the platform now.
Are you a bit wary now, Tony?
I agree. There's some players out there that use the platforms to get exposure for themselves. But I think once you're bitten, you're a bit wise to it.
Yeah.
And I think now that at our level, there is a lot of media coverage now. So players have piped down a little bit, I'll say.
Sam, you getting used to it? Well, you're young enough not to remember the old days anyway, and you just used to it now, aren't you?
Well, no, I think the thing is as well, like Tony's already alluded to, we've got our own internal media, so it's quite easy to control it, if you will, because you can just edit it. If they say something that isn't worthy of going on social media, we edit it out, I guess. But yeah, look, we're in a social media age. We have to be aware of what we're saying and doing, because we have to be PC at the very least. And again, you're representing the club, so you have to make sure that you're saying the right things.
Yeah. I mean, do you see? I don't know if you've seen it. Talking about saying the right things, there's always that. And he pops up every now and again on my timeline. And I can't remember the actual club where the manager comes out and absolutely destroys his side.
The Horndean manager.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Burmy. Yeah.
Not going down that route just yet, Tony, no?
No, not just yet. Not just, many times it's crossed my mind, but it's kept for the dressing room.
How do you think players react to that? Do you feel they'll get used to? Are they used to that, Sam? At Horndean.
Well, it's hard to know, isn't it? Because like we always have a discussion about like Dorking, and obviously Mark White comes out always says what he thinks because he obviously runs the club. So I think it's different. It's different. Some players, I always say about the younger players, they're not necessarily able to cope with the truth as well as like the experienced players who would be used to getting a dressing down in the olden times, if you will. You know, back in Tony's day, he might have got a few choice words thrown at him and it's just normal. But I think you have to be a little bit more cautious of what you say nowadays because people don't necessarily react as well.
Can you think of any, when you've been in the dressing rooms and right, you've been in dressing rooms as well. Has there been any sort of funny things that the managers actually come out with during the games? Do you know what I mean? Either plus or minus.
We have one every week.
Well, yeah.
Ryan, what about yourself, Ryan? Do you have any?
None that I can think of off the top of my head. In a minute.
I mean, the reason I asked you that question, we had Lee Allenson on end of last season, and he was talking about one of his managers, and he said like it'd be certain times when he'd start bringing in James Bond lines into his team talk beforehand and stuff like this, and he said like how the villain always manages to grab you and it gives him a chance to escape and stuff like this, and this is where we got to actually take that chance to actually and stuff like this, and it was quite funny. We actually had that manager on couple of weeks later, and it was just hysterical because some of those lines. But you got any lines you can tell us, Tony?
I wish I did, but unfortunately not. I'm not that intelligent to do that. No, I've played for lots of managers, as Sam says, a couple of old school managers. It was different in that day and age. You could tell a player good, bad, indifferent. I think a lot of the players now that play our level have come out of football academies where they've been told they're a 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. Back in the day it would be you're not quite good enough at doing X or doing X. And I think players look into things differently. So it's a different upbringing. And the football side of it, the technical side of it, has got a lot better. But sometimes when players don't do things as you'd like, there's ways in the way you tell them now. It is different. That's why we've got Sam. He's a lot younger.
I think one of the ones that I've never been in a dressing room like that. I've been kit manager and stuff, but I never used to go in when the team talks and that were going on. But I always remember one at Harlow, and they were playing, I think, in an FA Cup game, one of the sort of prelim rounds, and it wasn't, should we say, it wasn't going very well at half time, and the manager there, Danny Chapman's taking the team into the dressing room, and it must have been the thinnest walls in the world to the outside stadium, and a few of the ladies were out there, the chairman's wife and a couple of the others were all out just literally the other side of the window, and he was giving them seven bells of everything you can only imagine, and you could hear every single word. And in the end, he came out and apologised to the women because of some of the language that was being used inside the dressing room. Does that still go on as well? Is the teacup moment still going on?
Not as many, but I believe once in a while it still goes on. So I'm led to believe.
Sam?
You're trying to get me fired, I'm telling you. I'm absolutely not divulging any information from inside the changing rooms.
But he's not listening. Trust me. He told me he's tonight.
Oh, yes, he is.
But did it happen in your day? When you was playing as well yourself? I mean,
but I think like Tony alluded to, I think back in the day, I think it was common practice that if someone needed telling, they'd be told. But I think this changed now. It's changed now with youngsters. I think every now and again to have that shock factor to rip into the team, probably not individual, but as a team, I think it's a good thing. I think if you do it too many times, I think it then loses its what it's there for to do to shock people. If it's getting done every 2 or 3 games, I think people then start to switch off to it. Every now and again, there's nothing wrong with a good old telling off, being told the truth sometimes.
So, I mean, last question for you. I'll let you guys go. I mean, we'll start off with Ryan, as Ryan was talking there. Is there somebody in your league at the moment that, at the beginning of the season you looked at and went, well, they're definitely going to be sort of like one of the title favourites or one of the relegation sort of people that you expect to, but when you've looked at the table in those sort of first, 10 to 12 games have really surprised you and done something completely different?
Um, there's probably teams both ends of the table. They're probably looking at it where there's probably teams that are overachieving. I'm not gonna name any names, but there are teams that are probably overachieving. They're at the top end, and there's vice versa. There's probably teams down near the bottom that would have probably expected to be up and around the playoff positions come what may. But like you said, we're only 11, 12 games into the season. There's a lot of football still to play. There's a lot of points to still be played for. So I'm sure come December, January sort of time, the league will start to take a proper shape. It's still very early on. There's still, like I said, a lot of football to play. I wouldn't read into anyone's positions at the
I mean,
moment.
no disrespect to Dorchester. If you took Dorchester out and put Havant, Waterlooville in that top five, you wouldn't be pretty far off, would you?
And no, probably not. I think the two teams you just spoke about, I think both of them have recruited really well in the summer. Um, I think uh, Havant have obviously had a bit of a rebuilding project after coming down from this season. They've got a lot of good players in there. I think they've kept hold of quite a few of them from last season, which were step two players, and now playing step three. And you can't hide it. They're a massive club. A couple of years ago, they were a step one club. So there's no surprises there up and around it, and I expect them to be up and around there come what may as well.
Guys at Bedford, I mean, what any on your sort of side of it? Anybody sort of surprising you at the minute?
Bedford Town.
Oh, yeah.
I think, as Ryan's just said, 11, 12 games in, it's really hard to tell. We are doing okay at the minute, but I think come what may, it could be a lot different. I think your Telfords, your Ketterings will rise to the top, and there's always a few surprise packages. But and in our league, everybody is beating everybody at the minute, and we're included in that.
And it's a bit like that in your old league, the Central League as well. That league to me just seems to be a crazy league this year. Everybody's turning everybody over.
Well, I think if you looked at Berkhamsted and the Noisy Neighbours, Bedford FC, the real Bedford, they've got good budgets. They've got some really good players. But you're right. I think Hadley sit top of that league. Aylesbury United are up there. Teams at the beginning of the season probably wouldn't have been fancied. But yet again, be possibly a few different names up there at the end of April, May.
But it's just that sort of crazy stuff, isn't it? Like Hertford Town turning over Berkhamsted the other day as well, and it was just like no one would have seen that one coming.
Absolutely not. No, and I think they came from 3-1 down, didn't they, to win 5-3. Berkhamsted have got 3 or 4 players that played for us last season. Got some real good talent in there. Hertford play some really good football. There are in step 4 this season. There's some real good sides in there. But yeah, it's as you say, anybody can beat anybody in non-league football.
No, absolutely. Well, listen, guys, I really appreciate you coming on tonight, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. And for everybody else out there, thanks for joining us tonight. And we'll be back next week with the Repost on Lee show. And next week, I'll even remember to hit the record button so you get it on podcast as well. But until next week, thanks to Sam and to Ryan, and of course to Tony, and of course to Nathan, who's dropped off a little bit, but thanks to him as well. And a massive thank you, and we'll see you all next week.